So here we are, a bit late to the party on this one, but I felt that covering the massive connection between Russian state-funded propaganda and a lot of, well, right-wing social media influencers was quite important to cover. But holy moly, here we are. Wow. I said it in my video that I did on Wednesday, which came out ironically on Thursday. I was predicting Mel Stride to be the first to go. Like, I genuinely thought Mel Stride would be the first to go because he's this contest's comedy candidate. He is the literally who of this campaign. Remember, the only reason he is here is because he managed to hold onto his seat by 62 votes and has since become to think under this delusion that he is God's gift to conservatism. And partly why he is here, especially in this race, is to try and raise his profile, to try and improve himself, to sort of shop himself out, to try and become some sort of a bigger minister, to try and get one of those really high flying, shadow cabinet positions. That's the only reason why he's in this position. And bear in mind, Priti Patel, who was really the first shock candidate to go, was also there to try and revive her political career. Because since she was dismissed from the Home Office, roundly being seen by the rest of the Conservative Party as an absolute consummate failure, she's been on the backbenches with a very, very low profile. You've heard almost next to nothing from her, except when she came back and was like the fronter of the Conservative Democratic Organization. But even that did not garner her too much support. So for her to be the first to fall is quite a surprise. It's quite a shock. And I will say this now. Next week, though, Mel Stride goes. If you look at MP voting intentions, Mel Stride's the next to go. He absolutely is the next one to go in this contest. But we're going to go now and cover what Conservative commentator Henry Hill thought of this announcement, because this was, as by the looks of it, this was as much a surprise to me as everyone else, because even he was thinking that Mel Stride was going to be the first to go, but of course it wasn't. It was Priti Patel. But there's also should ask now the question, and even Henry Hill is asking this question. From what we've seen so far, it has been a boring leadership contest, a really boring leadership contest, mostly because there has been this, I don't know what we're going to call it, the, I don't know, the Pax Houchen, calling for peace and unity within the party. And that's what they've all been singing around the campfires, all singing Kumbaya. Meanwhile, of course, as I've said, every so often, in that glint of the fire, there's just a glint of someone sharpening a knife, preparing for the fight to come. Because, trust me, at the moment in time, there is nothing to distinguish between too much of these candidates. They've got to, at some point, really start to distinguish themselves. And to do that, that means they've really got to start attacking each other. And when that happens, oh boy, is it going to be interesting of all this. And not only that, the surprise frontrunner in all this is Robert Jerrick, the man who Ian Dunt, who wrote a really good article on. He's got all the charisma of wet paint. He's got massive corruption scandals following him from his time when he was in office. And yet it's like the Tories have learned nothing, that you don't elect people like this. Because the first thing that would, if I was Keir Starmer and Robert Jerrick wins, first thing I do is I go, okay, MP Select Committee, guess who's now front of the queue? for their hearings on all this stuff to go forward. That's all Labour has to do. And guess what? We then get to learn about all those fun allegations about Mr. Jerrick and what was going on between them. I'm sure the Conservative Party would love to do that. But as we saw this week as well, in head-to-head races, the only person who beats everyone, of course, Kemi Badenoch. But we're getting rumors and reports now she's going to be blocked from getting to the final two. And of course, Robert Jerrick, who beats everyone bar Kemi Badenoch. Surprisingly. But this is a guy with a personality that is, as Ian Dunn said, and I think he's absolutely right. Go read his column on that. He's 100% right. And you'll see all these allegations that he's got from his time when he was in office. Yeah, Robert Jerrick, not the best candidate you should be really backing, guys, Tory MPs. But hey, if they want to back him as that, be my guest. Because like I say, first thing Starmer should do, guess who's now front of the queue for their, MP select committee hearings? Was Mr. Jerrick a naughty boy? I'm sure the committee will love to start asking him some very difficult questions indeed on that. But back to this. So yeah, we're going to go look at Conservative Home and see what Henry Hill thought of all this. Because I think, again, as we've always said, Conservative Home, picture, snapshot of what the membership is. And the comments, also very interesting as well. So before we do get into this, please do remember to click the like, share, and subscribe button down below. There are links to my Patreon page, the one foundation called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, down below, there's the Pony Club too. So let's crack on into this. So as the MPs start culling the hopefuls, will the leadership contest finally heat up? So as the results of yesterday's first round of MPs voting and the Conservative leadership contest seem to have caught quite a lot of commentators, including, full confession, your author, somewhat by surprise. Caught me by surprise as well. I was sure Mel Stride was going to be the first one to go. And I know I've been calling him Mel Stride for the past couple of weeks. I don't know why. Just again, he was like the literally who of this campaign, but no, he's actually managed to survive somehow the first round of voting. But there you go. So back to this. So even a few days ago, the very much consensus was amongst those who I was speaking to was that Mel Stride would surely be the first candidate who would fall at the first fence. One suggested to me that he would get as few as 6 votes, although there was, late in the day, a suggestion that 1 or 2 more of the other campaigns might want to keep him in for a while. Again, tactical voting between these MPs going on. You see what I've been talking about? The rumors now going around that Kemi Badenoch's going to be blocked. Yep. I think that might be happening. I'll tell you what, the membership will not be happy because the membership wants Kemi Badenoch desperately. But if she gets blocked, the membership will not be happy. And we've seen what happens when that happens too. So good luck, Conservative Party. Chaos in your party again. Priti Patel's departure, of course, dramatic. Priti Patel's departure, of course, wasn't too seismic. It in herself, her campaign has obviously been very much struggling alongside with Stride. She was the candidate with very few expectations to actually try and reach the conference. If nothing else, having been Home Secretary when Boris Johnson massively liberalised the immigration system, and thus now having very little option but to defend it. She was the absolute poison chalice to someone now running from the right. Does it actually change much that she fell first? Had it been Stride, someone I spoke to expected that Patel, of course, would drop out, having now very little reason to expect any transfers from him in the second round of MP votings next week. He, on the other hand, has very little reason not to stick out. If his goal is here to raise his profile, Stride has now an extra week to do it. And I think, again, that's the whole reason why he's here. Ever since the election, like I say, he won on 62 votes. He's been thinking, going around apparently saying he's God's gift to conservatism. He's doing it to try and get a nice, plump shadow cabinet position job, one of the high level ones. That's why he is here. trying to raise his profile. And then, he'll be gone. So next week, he'll be the one to go. And at that point, really, we know then sort of who the final four roughly are going to be at that point. Yet the result at the top was, of course, more interesting. Robert Jerrick's very slick campaign might not yet have been making much of an impression with the membership. As we noted yesterday, our survey found that their opinions have barely shifted since the contest began, but it has now paid dividends amongst MPs. Will an actual tangible result like this be enough to shift the perceptions where the momentum lies? No, it absolutely will not. The membership wants Kimi Badenoch. They do not want Robert Jerrick. And I'm surprised that even MPs want Robert Jerrick, considering the fact that he is called by his fellow MPs generic Jerrick. Honestly, if they do elect Jerrick, he is not going to be wearing the Conservative leadership crown very, very easily, because Kimi Badenoch going to have a lot to say, especially if she got blocked when she's got the membership on her side. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Will there be a lot of interesting challenges? And then eventually, again, Kimi Badenoch can just say, Robert Jerrick's terrible. Let's get rid of him and put me in. I was going to win anyway. I've got the membership behind me. Anyone who blocks me this time, woe betide them. So, yeah, once again, permanent trouble in the Conservative Party over this. So, let's finish this off. If so, it could happen at the most crucial moment. Whether or not it was the, quote, 1922 committee's intention of setting a timetable, the nation has now largely ignored the first 5 weeks of this very overlong, underwatched election process. Meanwhile, the party's attention has been focused very much internally, and it has fallen to Jeremy Hunt, the nearly invisible Rishi Sunak, to take to the fight to the government during its first 100 days. And even then, they haven't been doing a very good job at all. Jeremy Hunt knows he's going to be replaced. He knows whoever comes into office, he's going to be replaced. He is just going to go back to the backbenchers. Rishi Sunak, as soon as he gets replaced, he is going to look for the first opportunity to get out and get while the getting's good. He has no intention of sticking around. In fact, there were 3 MPs who actually abstained in this first round of voting that we know of. One of them is suspected to be Rishi Sunak, but we don't know who the other 2 who abstained are. Perhaps, of course, it isn't surprising beyond the simple fact that the Conservative Party is now a relatively marginal force in politics following July's shattering defeat. The leadership contenders have all been extremely cordial, and barring the odd row, such as that over the European Court of Human Rights, found very little to fight over. Members can also very much be forgiven for not finding week after week of 6 people talking very pleasantly about unity a compelling spectacle. And bear in mind, these talks of unity, as I've said before, every single time we've covered this, pointless. Because they talk of unity, not actually how they are going to achieve it, or what happens if someone steps out of line and breaks your unity, starts challenging you on this. Because, oh boy, as we've said before, there are fundamental, massively huge fault lines in the Conservative Party over past problems, policy, stuff that they want to do, which fundamentally has split really the party and come to the surface since 2016. We described it back then as the wallpaper crack situation. There's a crack in the wall. Boris Johnson comes and puts his wallpaper over it, but the crack's still there. And it just gets bigger and bigger. And as we always said, it would just start engulfing people. And it engulfed Liz Truss, it engulfed Rishi Sunak, and it's going to engulf whoever comes next. And until they actually sit down and really start talking about those fundamental issues that they've got huge, policy problems with in the party, there's no way they're going to fix the unity problem, the loyalty problem within the party. So let's finish this off. The question is whether this truce can last or indeed should. And that's very interesting because Henry Hill couple of weeks ago, before this contest started, lamented the fact that the last time this contest happened, that was, of course, after Boris Johnson, was very mudslingy, that it just wasn't very good. It was very, very dirty. Everyone was like throwing everything they could at the wall against each other. And Henry Hill was lamenting that fact. And now he's like saying, should they actually, fight a bit more? Who knows? Anyway, it continues. The party obviously needs now a hard reckoning now with the multitude of disasters that the public now inflicted upon it this summer. The multitude of disasters the public inflicted on it. What about the multitude of disasters that the party inflicted upon itself for the past 14 years of being in government? Again, there's just this belief in the Conservative Party, which is an ideological fixation that they have, which they've got to solve, which they think the past 14 years of them being in government has been absolutely amazing and fantastic, and that they did absolutely nothing wrong. And until they can actually fix that, no one's really going to listen to them. No one's going to really listen to them at all. But back to this. So the multitude of disasters the public inflicted on it in the summer, members now need a more substantive difference between the candidates. If they are to make now a meaningful choice, blood in the water might actually finally have caught the nation's attention. It is now up to the candidates to hold it. Will they? Who knows? And of course, let's go have a look in the comments. Someone else here saying, I like this. We are in this leadership election now facing a possible and serious internal constitutional crisis. We are in opposition. So there is no constitutional need for our new leader to enjoy the support of a majority of MPs. In marked contrast to a leadership election where we were in power. There is, of course, an absolute necessity for the party members to be allowed to choose a leader if they can then present it to the national electorate. If we only get presented with two candidates, and then if they do not include the clear frontrunner according to the polls, then we are now in a serious danger of disenfranchising ourselves and being presented with a leader that we ourselves do not appear to want. And that is, of course, as we said, the membership wants Kimmy Badenoch. They want her. We've been saying this since the very beginning. These polls that Conservative Home has been putting out have been very, very, very much clear about that. The membership will vote for Robert Jerrick if they have the only option to, but they want Kimmy Badenoch. They've been making that clear for the past couple of months now. Very, very clear on that. So this is again, okay. The final contest will be Mr. Jerrick versus Kimmy B. No, it won't. Like I say, Kimmy Badenoch is going to get blocked. I think that she'll make it to the final four, and I think she'll get blocked. If she makes it to the final two, it's hers to win. But can she actually make it to the final two? That is the big question. Both now, without presenting much of attraction now with the general public at large. Might they actually do enough to actually carve this up of this already wretched and widely disliked two-tier Kia, the hard socialist regime which we are now presently lumbered with? Many of us are saying that it is now 10 years for Labour, but they said the same when the jolly green globalist giant won back in 2019, in December of 2019 too. Reform are only going to get more popular as well. Again, that's true. Then someone brings this up. The party needs a hard reckoning with the magnitude of disaster the public inflicted on this summer. Yes, but the party is also in danger of ignoring how much of the disaster was inflicted by CCHQ. Part of the problem as well, but not all of it. There are two problems that urgently need to be addressed in the party if it is to avoid further catastrophic and potentially a fatal disaster in the country and the unitary elections, of course, next May, which we are going to be defending 29 out of the 33 authorities up for election, with another 4 being in no overall control. The first of these is the state of the party's finances. Neither the membership nor the parliamentary party nor the members generally have access to the management accounts of CCHQ. That is true. Party finances, we've been hearing a lot about this. You see Conservatives bring this up a lot. Party finances. We're not in that particularly too much of a good state. That is going to be a bit of a problem. Although Mr. Marbut, as time as registered treasurer, is required by Section 41 of the PPEHRHA to maintain the accounts, which disclosed at any time with reasonable accuracy the financial position of the party at that time. Financial statements have been published following the balance sheet on December 23rd, 2023. It's said to now have been prepared in conformity, but generally accepted the financial reporting standards of the UK and Ireland. They would have shown that on the date the CCHQ had under its control the net assets of over £1,192 of cash and over £2,000 currently published in associate figures. Goes on to talk about we know from published election data of the Electoral Commission between the 1st of January and March this year, the period during the election campaign itself, donations to CHQ were now disappointingly low and below what received by the Labour Party. So again, big problems. The other big problem, made very much harder by CCHQ, is on the verge of insolvency, is now delivering support to associations and county councillors now seeking to try to be re-elected or candidates taking over from sitting candidates. That will be very interesting to see. Does the Conservative Party run into financial problems? That will be very interesting to see what could happen there. Someone else here. In recent years, the general election result, having taught us anything, is that the party now is at war with itself and is not fit to govern and won't win elections. The candidates are quite right to emphasize unity, that only a unified Conservative Party has any future prospect of winning future elections. Policy-wise, there really isn't much to differ on. Across the platform, on high immigration, a lack of control on illegal arrivals, addressing economic challenges, recognize environmental protection is now a valid concern, and that expensive green gimmicks aren't acceptable. Challenges bad decisions by the Labour Party, call them out in the nonsense, trying to blame the policy choices of the previous government. Many of these policy choices were because of your previous government. You have to, actually accept that. But there you go. And of course, finally, to the electorate to actually engage with them, so the next Conservative leader is actually offering leadership for the country, not just for the party membership. Don't think that's going to happen over time, very much soon. Someone else pointing out they don't feel that they're going to get what they want there. Someone else, yeah, I can't see anything merging worthwhile for at least 10 years or so. The party's now been torn apart by so many disputes and, frankly, too many inadequate people attempting to lead a disunified flock. The right and centre-right divide is now far too wide to be coalescing at present. The rightists are not capable of forming a stable and lasting government. The policies might achieve an election, but ensure an ejection very shortly afterwards. And the right of centre are now bad enough to support the elected, but sadly this gives them far too much strength in both the Farageist and other left of Labour and other more extreme union leaders. Again, interesting for that one. We need to change at the central office, better structure for selection, training of candidates. I was astonished to learn in my local constituency that our MP did not want anything to do with either this district or local county elections. Oh. Yeah, interesting times ahead, definitely. But yeah, the first person out, Priti Patel. I was shocked. I thought it would be Mel Stride, but no, he survived for another week. But next Wednesday, he's gone. He is gone next week. He does not last. And then we'll see who else will fall. And we'll also see if maybe things start to get a little bit spicy as, these candidates realize, well, I've got to start now sticking out from the crowd. I've really started to winning over some more MPs. I've really started to get convincing some more of these MPs. And the thing is, while Jerick has had a very slick campaign, that doesn't speak to will he actually be a good leader. Bear in mind, if there are any Conservative MPs out there watching, remember the fact that Jerick has a lot of corruption scandals following him and a lot of his own scandals. And you are about to give this guy the leadership. Yeah, you guys have really learnt nothing, have you, from from the past couple of years? But there you go. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, please do remember to click the like, the share button, and of course, the subscribe button down below. And don't forget to leave a comment too. And we'll see you all next time.